So just two techniques we're looking at here in this El Greco painting. Now, a bit like the rag yesterday, remember we were talking about with oil paint, because it doesn't dry, it's not only kind of just adding paint all the time, it's also the ability to reduce paint. So instead of it being additive all the time, it can be reductive, so reducing paint off the surface. Now, here, kind of throughout his cloak, you can see a lot of scratch marks where it's coming in and scratching out the paint, in particular where the light sections are. So up here, especially when you get up close, you can see that there's a lot of scratching back into the surface. Now, when you're scratching into the surface, that's a term that's called sgraffito, again Italian, Now these are spelled back in the classroom, so just double check. Sgraffito is S-G-R-A-F-F-I-T-O. Sgraffito, which is like, I think, an early term for like related to graffiti as well, I think. But what it is, so what you'd do, okay, you'd have a dry layer underneath, so it has to be dry, okay. So again, oil painting's layering, so the layer would be dry underneath. You'd apply the red and those browns, okay, and then what would happen once you apply that, you'd often use like an old paintbrush. So, you know, often people keep old paintbrushes where the hairs have gone all hard and bristly, and then what you'll do is just, whilst it's wet, is just come back in and scratch out that wet paint, okay, which reveals the surface that's underneath. Okay, so dry layer, paint, and then scratch out the wet paint, which then reveals the layer that sits underneath it, okay? Now, the other technique on the collar is a technique called scumbling, S-C-U-M-B-L-I-N-G. Now, to scumble is where, again, you'd have a dry layer underneath, okay, and then with a dry brush often, so a brush where no oil, okay, just paint. What you do is also probably take a little bit of that paint off on a rag, so you've just got a dry brush, and all you do is just kind of scrape it or scumble it across the surface.